engage with ideas. In the previous Baithaks, we hosted scholars whose works has dealt with questions around cinema, security and strategy, digital spaces and memes, gender, marginality, and many other issues. The session title today is on From Fusion to Fission, the Crisis of Parliamentary Opposition in India. As speaker for the session, we have amongst us Dr. Rupak Kumar. Dr. Rupak is an assistant professor of political science at the Department of Social Sciences, School of Social Sciences and Languages, Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore, India. He is the author of the book Making of the Parliamentary Opposition in India from Routledge, published in 2025. Previously, he taught at the Shahid Bhagat Singh College, University of Delhi. He holds a doctoral degree from the Center for the Study of Law and Governance, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. As discussant for today's session, we have amongst us Dr. Jigyasa Sogarwal, who is a visiting faculty at the National Law School, Bangalore. She is also a co-editor at TheDaak. We welcome you all to the session. Dr. Rupak, we usually have the speaker share their work with us for 25 to 30 minutes, after which the discussant shares their ideas, their questions, and post all of that. We open the floor for any questions from the participants. I think we can start now.
All right. Thank you, Chetna. Yeah. So, thank you, the Dark and the team, and particularly Jigyasa for inviting me for this talk. I have not prepared a PPT, rather prepared a lecture. So I'll be very brief about it. This part of the lecture, or this the particular lecture, which focuses mainly on the contemporary India, but I will also, the way I have studied the parliamentary opposition, um, I see it as a circular kind of process. So I started studying about the parliamentary opposition after the independence. And then in my PhD and then in the book, it was divided into 5 phases. The first phase was the formative phase between 1952 to 66, then resilience phase 67 to 84, consolidation phase between 85 to 99, and then the fragmentation phase till 2014. After 2014, what is still the process is the unmaking of the opposition. So it started from unmaking to making and then again unmaking. So this is how I have seen. Mostly I have focused till 2014 in the PhD. Uh, After 2014 to 2024, I have written a little bit here and there, but I'm still working on this. So it might come as a form of an research article about last 10 years. So this, the way I have understood of parliamentary opposition basically is that we can understand parliamentary opposition from two arguments, and these arguments are complementary to each other. The first kind of argument is what I call the argument of democracy's necessity. And this is largely taking cue from various European thinkers and as well as Indian founding fathers and founding mothers' argument from the Constituent Assembly that without the opposition, one cannot imagine a democracy. So, if we are considering democracy as the suitable or the best form of government, so it cannot exist without the opposition, and therefore, uh, opposition plays a very crucial role in defining the characteristics of our democracy itself. The second argument, what I call is governance imperative. So this is that we want a vibrant democracy, and for that, parliamentary opposition has to exist. But my emphasis is also that the mere existence is not enough. In a parliamentary democracy like India or any other democracy, the opposition plays a very central role in defining the agendas, the governance, the policy making, also. And the best platform for it is the parliament. And therefore, if, as a in the legislature also, uh, opposition has been given certain places in committees, in various kinds of parliamentary committees. Then they have no confidence motions, censor motions, etc. And where they can suggest changes, they can suggest policy agendas to the government, and they also play a very crucial role uh, in defining the policy. So these is the two kind of arguments that is going to be central uh, in understanding the parliamentary opposition. So if we take just a cursory view of what happened post independence, so we see that uh, there was a means from the one that is very common is that there was a asymmetry between the political parties after the independence. So you have Congress, which is very strong organizationally, very and have a very robust leaders across the country. And on the other hand, you have various parties which is very weak, as many of them came to existence after fragmentation from the Congress itself. So this kind of asymmetry exists. And second, which I have focused was that uh, there is also a kind of absence of conditions of equality is there. And so conditions of equality has to say that uh, if we were founding a independent and democratic nation, and the opposition or the parliamentary opposition was very central to the idea of imagination. So, what happened in the Constituent Assembly or outside during the same time, or how the forefathers and the foremothers envisioned the role of parliamentary opposition? So here I go in the Constituent Assembly and various other kinds of party documents. Then the one of the thing that is there was a conditions absence of conditions of equality. So uh, many people have tried to formulate it in the form of, say, the Constituent Assembly was the Congress or the Congress was the Constituent Assembly. But my concern is that was there an attempt to institutionalize the opposition as far as in the parliament or in the legislature was made? So this is the first kind of uh, argument that comes, that we see that there was an absence of this. The second was that uh, we find that there was a lot of concern for opposition in idea. So you will find all the leaders talking that yes, opposition is important, there must be an opposition. But whenever people like Jayaprakash Narayan or Lohia or Narendra Dev uh, and Shama Prasad Mukherjee, whenever they asserted their right as opposition leaders, then the immediate argument has always been that opposition is obstructing, is creating disturbances for the government, and different kinds of blames and allegations that we even see today. So this kind of what you can call this kind of uh, paradoxical treatment, that opposition in ideas is there. So if you read leaders' speeches, any leader ruling party, you will not doubt that they were antithetical to the idea of opposition. But if you go to the newspapers of those days, if you go to the what is happening in the parliament, what is happening on outside the parliament, was there any policy debate which the opposition have initiated or given some amendment was taken? How the power people in power is treating the opposition leaders, their statements? So you find that there is this kind of rhetoric is being applied of either obstruction, it is being anti-national convenience, marriage of convenience, all these kinds of things over there. Therefore, uh, there is there is a very therefore what I call that the opposition in ideas exist, but when it comes for to create a kind of condition where the opposition can actually act in action, that is where it is missing. So whenever to empower the opposition in the policy making, that we find missing. And the best way was to give certain constitutional or even institutional protection to the MPs of uh, the non-ruling parties in the constitution, which of late, very late in British constitution, we have certain business hours is reserved for the non-ruling party MPs. Then even the way the members of the committees are selected, they have a very close ballot uh, elections where MPs vote for themselves, the autonomy to the committees, all these uh, was adopted in the Westminster Parliament. And the third thing, that as the opposition and the ruling parties uh, uh, traveled in the independent India, so there is we see that the blurring of ideological boundaries also begins to happen. So in 1950, early 50, you have a very ideological parties either competing with each other or competing against the Congress. So there was a distinguish between this, and then gradually they start moving together in the form of, say, not in the beginning as electoral alliances, but say a functional alliances within the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. So within the Lok Sabha, on say there was this preventive detention bill was brought in. Uh, so the CPI and the then Jan Sangh, they have a functional alliance. Both Syama Prasad Mukherjee and the CPI leader comes together to oppose it. So this kind of things happens, and which finally leads to various kinds of, not between these two parties, but between the socialists and other. So from a position of a distinguished to coming together to have a very selective to a functional alliances to a selective electoral alliances, and which by 1960s 62 leads to a very electoral alliance, full-fledged electoral alliances, which disregards even the ideological purity, and which we see after 1980s and 1990s. We see this absence of any kind of ideological blurring is happening within the opposition, um, and this leads to all-out collision forms of all-out collisions where, and even in many cases, the merger of the two parties or different parties happens. And then the fourth kind of is that uh, after 19 mid 80s, 84, 85, we see that a consolidation of opposition uh, is visible, and this consolidation was result of primarily the result of the assertion of either to marginalized social groups who comes together, who asserts their political rights, and various parties, Janta parties, and various regional parties, they come together, and this kind of consolidation happens against the Congress, and this anti-Congressism, what is famously known as. So this consolidation happens. Uh, but remember that this was the phase that if you pick any of the leaders of those times, they were always advocating for a kind of consolidation uh, where the backward classes or the Dalits, they argued for coming together. A sense of unity was there. But in the fragmentation phase, which after 1999, is that within this the politically mobilized class, the groups begins to what assert their different groups begins to assert for their different or individual leadership, leading to various parties, state-based parties, regional parties, uh, which unfortunately do not even try to expand outside, say, their comfort base. So this is the fragmentation. So this was not the idea of the 60s, 70s, or 80s assertion phase, primarily in 70s and 80s, that the leaders and Lohia was not there, but their idea, if you, they did not want that all these caste and class which is outside the, or which was not the elite in the Congress sense, they formed their respective groups. They were there that they should come together, form a party or any kind of organization to be a uh, alternative to the Congress. This was the idea. So this kind of representational assertion was converted into a very different kind of representation, uh, which is a which is a kind of very narrow in the sense, whose even idioms are narrow. So this is uh, what is happening. So in this sense, we have to understand that uh, the opposition, which was in the 1950s, they also, from a very small and discreet and uh, ineffective opposition, they comes together, they consolidate, and then gradually Congress is replaced. If you compare the how the opposition is between the uh, in the two dominant party systems, so how the opposition was during the Congress and how the opposition is during the present BJP system, so you see that the opposition is fragmented, but at the level of process, the different social groups in the after mid 60s and later, they begins to move away from the Congress, and different regional parties and other parties are the beneficiary of it because they were the leaders who were mobilizing against. But 2014 onwards, the phenomena is very different. That uh, the ruling the there is a ruling party, but the social groups, or with whom all of the parties are competing with each other, the social groups are still attaching themselves with the ruling party. So on the one hand, in the 50s, 60s, the social groups are moving away from the ruling party, getting to the opposition parties. But right now, the social groups are still uh, attracted towards the ruling party. And that, according to me, is not the outcome of uh, 1 day or 1 year or 2 years of experimentation by the party. And so if you begins to think that why it's happening, primarily one of the reason is that uh, right now we have all the parties. If in the spectrum, if you see, uh, we have the electorate have almost tested all the parties. So all these parties have already ruled either in the state or in the center, mostly. Um, with the alliance, they have also ruled the center. So electorates have witnessed their party policy, their agenda, their leadership, and therefore there is nothing new that uh, most of these parties, opposition parties, are offering to the electorates to offer something, so that in search of the opposition, people have something to, or social groups have something to attach with the group. The second thing is, and this is what I'm focusing on, that I read parliamentary opposition as a process. So how the political processes is constituting the opposition or uh, not constituting the opposition. So it is, I mean, if you see most of the newspaper writings or other kinds of writings that people are focusing, so there is one extrinsic factor is overemphasized. So what I am working on, that there is both the intrinsic factor and the extrinsic factor. And what makes a robust opposition, parliamentary opposition, is the extrinsic factor. Means there have never been an attempt under any government that that government or ruling party will do something, some parliamentary reforms, some institutional reforms to accommodate the opposition. Okay, so we should not be live in an utopia where we should expect that today BJP is in the power. We should ask BJP, or we should pressurize BJP to uh, do some institutional reforms to accommodate, say, opposition in the governance terms, in the governance imperative. Uh, it will not happen. And the best example is the states. So here we are studying parliamentary opposition and how it is impacting the parliamentary politics. Even if we look at the state assemblies, it has been ruled by various parties. There are various parties ruling. The status of the condition of state assemblies is dismal than the Indian parliament. Many of the state assemblies hardly meet for 20 days. Uh, Many of the state assemblies is meeting for 13 days in a year, 20 days in a year. And remember, these are being ruled by all of the parties. So no parties is coming to set a model that how you should treat the legislature, or how should you give a what the safeguards to the opposition. So without going into this kind of utopian world that there will be a parliamentary reform and it will, so I focus on the intrinsic factor, that what these parties are doing. And so in this comes that uh, first, if I uh, after 2014, so far I have read till 2018, 2019. So I have done a very in-depth study of newspaper reportage of almost each day, just to know that what various parties other than the BJP opposition parties, what was happening in as far as their party is concerned. So membership drives, then some new agenda, the leadership changes, their youth organizations, right? So if you go through this, then you find that uh, the problem is also intrinsic, where the issue basically is that there is a very deep, uh, uh, you can say, non-inclination to really revive the parties from the point of view of first leadership is there. Second, even the political agendas there. So either we take some agenda and then we try to blow out of proportion, which really has no meaning at the grassroots. And then even the party agendas, the policies, and what kind of party programs that is being uh, promised, that is also from the point of view of, say, an opposition parties, we are unable to capture that kind of people's attention. Second, uh, as far as the leadership is concerned, so any kind of organic leadership that we want to see. So even if I tell you to name couple of leaders after 2014 who have been organic leaders and who have been given a really some active role in the party to build organization or a membership drive. So all these things, there is not much focus on. And extrinsic factors is what where the media, the institutions, all these comes in. That media is heavily biased, or all these comes in. So when these two, this double whammy comes together, that intrinsic and extrinsic, the problem becomes grave. So unless this is the extrinsic factor that you can't, a party, an opposition party can't control. But what is intrinsic is that you can define, you can control. And therefore here we see that the even the representational assertion to try to give some kind of substantive representational meaning to different social groups is where failing. And you see that suddenly some parties, specifically SP, try to broaden their representational basis and they worked hard. So you have a result. Whereas if you do it, so many parties try to do it in a very symbolical manner. So that the changes, the perception you can see. So so this kind of representational meaning, which is bereft of any kind of substance, or what these changes or these whatever the representational assertion happened, what is the outcome of it? Because now electorate wants to see the outcome, that what is happening. Yes, there is a representation given to, but what how is this representation changing it into substantive representation? How is it making a difference to the people of that group? So that is where we find that we don't have much answer to. And so it is in this sense the fission is happening, that and even today you have despite having alliances, uh, it is not a kind of arithmetic. So even for instance, if you see states like say Bihar or some state, we see that the alliances are not very organic, in the sense that uh, Congress wants to raise some other issue, RJD wants to raise some other issue. There is no cohesion, there is no seamless uh, party or alliance program. Okay? So this kind of and we might not realize it from here, but people are realizing that the local leadership of various of these parties are not comfortable with various kinds of agendas that their leadership is raising. So this kind of so even this kind of fusion is there. So fusion at the level of interest, that party interests are different. Second, at the level of the representation. So even at when we talk about representation, uh, uh, of late parties have begun to do it in a symbolic manner after they realized, and mostly after 2014 and effectively after 2019, but without much success, because it is just a kind of a lip service that is being done. And then that this representation is hardly changing it into the leadership question, right? So once you try to ensure that representation is given to all, then you have to actually convert it into the leadership if you want, because this is where in electoral politics, leadership matters. The direction, the party direction, agenda, all these things are there. So this is where the problem lies. Therefore, we see that uh, uh, the expansion of the parties in general happens in Indian politics, but uh, as the fragmentation, as generating fragmentation and making ideological neutral coalitions, which is result of the fragmentation, which ultimately contributes to the weakening uh, of the concept of opposition, because such kinds of opposition uh, is largely ineffective, also unable to say demand accountability from the government. So these two issues are there, that as the representational assertion grows, and various kinds of compromises on the front of uh, party principles are made. Ultimately, what is the collateral is the parliamentary opposition as a whole. All right, so I'll stop here and we'll discuss over the question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rupak, for your enlightening thoughts. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Sogarwal to share her insights or any questions that she may have had.
Thank you, Chetna. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I would go ahead and start speaking about Dr. Rupak Kumar's presentation. But before that, I want to congratulate him for his book, the Routledge publication that is out. I want to read out of course, we'll put out the link for the book in the chat box as well. But I want to read out the title of the volume. It is a making of parliamentary opposition in India, and I would recommend this book to everybody. And I'm recommending this book is because it seems to me that there is a considerable gap in terms of the work that has been done on Indian Parliament. And I know that Rupak has been working on this for a very long time, including the fact that he was interested in these questions from his MPhil time. And a considerable amount of PhD work has gone in this. So on that note, I want to start by commenting, looking at, asking some pertinent questions that I felt had to make sense. So what I'm hearing you say, and what I've also kind of gauged from the papers, and there are a number of papers for anybody who's interested. Yeah, I think Chetna has put out the link also for us. Thank you, Chetna. So for anybody who's interested in this conversation, there are a number of papers also, and they're available in the Google Drive. So what I'm hearing you say, and what I'm also reading you, the sense that I'm getting is that you're saying, well, one, from the foundational moment itself, there seems to be a gap. And in one of your papers, you're arguing that because there was a certain way in which Congress party system, as Kothari would call it, had subsumed all kinds of opposing or contrary voices. Therefore, a robust opposition in terms of its institution and the process itself did not emerge. And what we see eventually in both the fragmentation and the consolidation stage of it is that playing out as a process. Cut to now when we are in the present form, where again similar such thing is happening. However, it's not something that has just emerged, and therefore it needs to be looked at as a process. That is what I'm hearing you say, and that is what I'm reading you also. But there's a very interesting argument that you make in another paper where you say that during the emergency, which is the 70s phase, there seems to be considerable opposition, both in terms of ideas and in terms of consolidation of what you call resistance against the authoritarian regime. But you're also making the argument that resilience by itself does not convert to organization or electoral gains or what is understood to be a process within the institution. So my first question to you would be that when we look at this fragmented space, I'm hearing you say through your presentation in the work that the solution perhaps lies, or a way forward perhaps lies, to fix fragmentation within this process for opposition and to consolidate opposition or to give it more teeth, would be to fix the institutional side of it. And from your and my training at the same center, we look approaching politics and institutions from three spaces: the process, the structure, and then the people, right? So there were three ways to approach and read politics, especially within the Indian Parliament. I'm hearing you say, let's fix something in the institutional structure itself, which is to say there should be safeguards or options that are available within an institution where the opposition itself has that side of the whole is blunt. That is what I'm hearing you say. But you're giving credence to the other process side of it and saying people side of it also could work. But if we have the institutional, the socket in the one that does not have the electricity is the socket with the institution. That is what I'm hearing you say. But I was wondering if, given how there is no incentive, as you just pointed out, with majority party, whether it is Congress or BJP or somebody else, how does one envisage that within the institutional framework? What would that look like? That's my first question. My second question was the difference that you've made between the phenomena of fragmentedness within, say, the larger Congress system, and therefore the parties that have emerged or interests that have emerged post-Congress domination, trying to move away from Congress and seeking a separatedness from Congress. And you mentioned that in your research you find that the 2014 phenomenon is different. While you have different fragmented, consolidated interests, they necessarily don't feel like stating themselves away from the BJP. And I was wondering if federalism or the fact that these smaller fragmented parties or leaders also are consolidated to local regional leaders who may or may not have designs for a pan-national power or pan-national government. And does that have, because I was hoping that would come up, but I thought, of course, the electorate has tested all people, but is it also that there seems to be considerable, and one example that comes to my mind is people being absolutely comfortable in Delhi with Arvind Kejriwal and Narendra Modi at the top. So these two conversations or these two ideas of having a different local leader, but a BJP prime minister, does this have anything to do with how power has also consolidated itself in regional spaces as opposed to designs that some leaders may or may not have for the center? And when you mention that one cannot point at many political leaders who have captured naturally the imagination of the nation. I was wondering, does that come because of this fragmented nature of power, where local ideas, local needs, and local issues have a very different language, and they find local leaders speaking of it as opposed to say things that are going at the center. That was my second question that I was I was wondering. My third question, which you haven't pointed out, but I was wondering when you were, and it's related to the first one, that when you were thinking in terms of giving more teeth to the institution of opposition itself within the structure, something like, a different kind of, say, are we also saying or thinking in terms of moving away from, say, first past the post system, and thinking in terms of what you call proportional representation, given India is a humongous country with diversity? Is that also the kind of conversation that your kind of work is doing, in terms of if we necessarily, the fact that there's absolutely no Muslim representation in the Indian Parliament, especially from the majority party, or the party in power right now, would representation, and there I would want to connect my question on representation, as you mentioned, towards the end of your, presentation, about the intrinsic nature of, the structure of the political party itself. Does it need to throw up representation, or differently? Do we need to imagine representation formula-wise, not just in terms of ideas, as you pointed out, but in terms of formulas, in terms of reservation of seats, in terms of quota system? So many such experiments are available across the world. I have more things to say, but I'm going to stop here. And I would request Chetna to take over. I'm sure there are more questions in the audience as well. And we could take those questions as well first, perhaps. Chetna?
Would it not be too hectic? We already have 3 questions. Probably Dr. Kumar could answer them first, and then...
Okay. I have a couple of more things to say, but towards the end, if Chetna allows. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jigyasa. Yes, so many things I did not say because I knew that questions will come, and therefore I wanted to just focus during that time. First question regarding this I have not raised in this lecture, but in my book, in the framework chapter, I have focused on this Congress system thing. And that is where during the PhD, during defense, everything, most of the problem happened there. Because the external and everyone was not very convinced, or I don't know how to say. But what I, and as far as, so Congress system, we try to understand it through features. So one of the feature was that it subsumed opposition. So within Congress, there was an opposition, and Nehruvian consensus is what. That is where my problem is. That when I told you in ideas, it might seem, but when I began to look for a policy, that all right, I want to search for a policy that Congress wanted to bring in, the leadership wanted to bring in, but due to the opposition by the Congress state organization or maybe some minister, they could not pass it in the parliament, or the amendment they accepted. So in action or in practice, where was actually this opposition exist? That is where it's missing. That either as long as you agree with the leadership, it is all right, but at the moment you begin to bicker with the leadership or you argue, then there is a problem. A second, that the main problem is that in any party there are factions, right? So even today in the ruling BJP, we can point out various factions based on state. But can we call that these factions are operating as an opposition, parliamentary opposition, or even opposition? So treating factions as opposition and then calling it that they are margins of pressure is very inadequate. And therefore, means not in my PhD, but in the book, I titled it "The Myth of the Congress System," right? And basically, that show me where this consensus was operating. I could not find an example uh, in a concrete sense that. Therefore, and therefore, when we come to the institutional side of it, the idea was very simple, and it was not many people raised this issue that we must do some adopt some artificial measures to at least make sure that opposition is effective, right? So it was dismissed as a process, or in all. Then this you can read in this Constituent Assembly debates and thereafter many of the things with which even Nehru was very comfortable with till 1947. Suddenly, after the first election, he scraps it. The famous is the committee system, that it was scrapped. Till in 1947, Nehru is saying it is a very good system, works well with the parliament institution. In 1952, he wins, he scraps it and says this is waste of time. Anyway, committees are not effective. So instead of making it effective, instead of accommodating various kinds of, you are scrapping. And so and then if you read the various letters by Nehru, and then how Jayaprakash Narayan is talking again and again that do something. So this kind of thing we see that uh, this uh, this kind of space or what small guarantees for the opposition was disregarded. Uh, and related to this, that it's not that why the common question that comes to our mind is that why a ruling party will do something to strengthen the opposition, maybe the institutions. Why will they do it? But the idea is that at the founding moment, it is not a party, or even after that. So if the party's intrinsic functions is well, they will automatically become an effective opposition. That might take 15, 20, 25 years. But for those number of years, we can't let the political system be say, run by the whims and fancies of the ruling party. And therefore, just to provide a kind of minimum safety net, that where do you stop? Because in a democracy, uh, from the point of view of governance, accountability, scrutiny, transparency is very basic. That why are you making this law? Who is accountable? The budget, everything. So who will make this? So if the opposition is weak, these things are also challenged, and therefore institutional safeguards, a minimum safety net, will ensure in the meantime that at least these kinds of governance issues are not compromised with. And therefore, if you are making mechanisms or instilling or constitutionalizing the opposition, uh, what on, at least you will be able to understand the functioning of the government. That is the idea. In not means as a party outside, we are still not focusing the outside of the parliament. We are only on inside of the parliament. So this is the one thing that I wanted to point out, that uh, and in the formative phase, this is exactly what happened. But we have to remember that uh, uh, two kinds of, one was this democracy and another was development. So the greatness of Nehru is that he did not he did not bring democracy versus development, right? So he was very comfortable with the idea that these two can exist. After Nehru and Sastry, the problem was that if you want a democracy, means one of the first few speeches of Indira Gandhi during emergency was exactly this, that development and this opposition politics can't go together, right? So this is either of the two. If you want good governance, then stop all these protests or that was happening. So these were put at loggerheads, and therefore one way was chosen, that we should shut down the opposition by imposing emergency. So this difference or this stark contrast was witnessed. Then here is what, that is why if there had been any kind of safeguard, So this could have been prevented. So this is the idea. And then the second question about this fragmentation, and also we have examples of the 80s in Indira Gandhi's second coming. There were not much effective opposition at the national level, but the regional parties, be it Tamil Nadu, Jammu and Kashmir, then Punjab, Karnataka, uh, uh, among a couple of more states, but I could remember these parties. They all came together uh, to ask for some of the very central arguments of federals in the federalism, the autonomy for the states in the finances, right? So in the early 80s, just after when Indira Gandhi again becomes the prime minister, these parties comes together, they assert their rights, the state chief ministers assert their rights, and Indira Gandhi had to relent over the federal structure. So these regional opposition could also get something which was uh, of a pan-Indian significance, that and autonomy in terms of finances, autonomy in terms of, and the big this was related to one of the triggering factor was planning commission. Uh, so these are the chief ministers of these states, out of which none of them were Congress chief ministers. All of them had regional parties, so they could come together. Andhra was also there. And they could achieve something substantial. And it was one of the few success stories of opposition in when Congress Party was ruling at the center. And so this kind of examples we can find it. But again, if you see that the issue was very governance centric. The issue was something which people can actually understand. They were raising about the finance issues, how the public policy is being impacted, how the heat of the finances common people is facing. Right? So people could not relate to the meta narrative of, say, thousands of crores or hundreds of crores, but they could understand that how, if this is resolved, something of roads or some basic governance issues can be resolved or held. And so, and therefore, we have such examples where, despite having the fragmented opposition, functional unity was did play a constructive role in where the one of the questions defining the federalism was resolved. Okay? And the third is that again, this FPTP and PR. This is again uh, this is altogether a separate debate that is going on, be it Sasi Tharoor or even in the Constituent Assembly. We have this kind of debate. But how far it will be successful, we can't. Means we can only speculate about it, because uh, there is related regarding FPTP, there are various lacunae, there are various limitations that we can see. The winning margin and the wastage of votes is there, specifically when even the opposition could not play a crucial role in the parliament. Then again, it seems like that the non-ruling parties, MPs, other than their MP led funds, uh, we have. So this is interesting, because during my PhD, I also wanted to study this, that how, so I wanted to study all the parliamentary constituencies uh, by studying that, because in 545 constituencies, other than say 300 MPs who form the government, there are more than 200 MPs. They primarily belong to either the opposition parties or neutral, just like BJD and all. But they are also contributing a lot in the policy making and in their areas. So one of the question I wanted to keep was to focus on each constituency and there. But again, the resource in the PhD, this was an issue. But this is in my mind, that if I get an opportunity and resources, so this will be something I'll focus on, how FPTP, to what extent it is helping this question. So right now, other than speculation, I can't offer much in this. Yeah. Uh, Yeah. Anything else in this?
Now I think we can open the floor to participants. Fatima Baloch has asked in the group chat if they can ask a question. Of course, if you feel comfortable, you can turn on your mic and ask, or you could type it in the chat box as well. And any other questions from the participants also are welcome. Dr. Jigyasa, you had some comments to make, so you could also share those. You said you have more to say. So
There are,
while people are probably
yeah,
typing the questions,
yeah,
you
but
could.
I also see Sakshi
Oh,
Bardwaj.
there's a hand raised. Right, right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Sakshi, please ask the question.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the insightful discussion. So, just wanted to like kind of nudge forward and ask you about, the international relations and how that kind of featured in Indian Parliament. So, we were talking about, basically the making of opposition. So, how do we view the aspect of, the international relations between India and other countries when it comes to the ruling party and the opposition. So, can we think more on the lines of how these issues? So, generally, so the convention is that the country should unite when it comes to the foreign relations, right? And how we are dealing with economy and, our trade with other countries, but how that kind of featured during the Nehruvian era and sort of evolved later on with different governments coming in, and how that, so we all of us know about the nuclear deal, and we also had um, Manmohan Singh's birthday recently. So how do we look at international relations in context of Indian politics and the discussions within the parliament? If you could shed some light on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sakshi. So, yes, as far as international relations are concerned and its functioning, be it various kinds of treaties and other kinds of trade deals. So, specifically after 1991, when we opened our economy, the role of Parliament became very detrimental, very influential in this, not detrimental. And therefore, as an institutional reform, uh, if you read the advent of departmental committees in the parliament, one of the reason was also this, that parliament's business, the government business, has increased manifold, and therefore we need separate committees to cater to all these demands. So, Parliament does play a crucial role. Second thing is that uh, it is always the executive which prepares the framework of any foreign policy. Right? Parliament acts as facilitator and sometimes also acts as, say, maybe some new idioms are to be found to say, for instance, relationship with Israel or erstwhile USSR, all these things. But it is the government who plays an effective role, the executive, to be precise. So Indian Parliament have been playing this role as a facilitator, and over the years. So if you read some of the parliamentary debates around 1960 and 1962-63 during the India-China War. So you can see that how these issues. So it was a issue uh, that government was handling, but in the parliament we see that parliamentarians did form some various kinds of forums, such as one was Himalaya Bachao Andolan or something. Okay? It is mentioned in the book that so these kinds of forums were there, led by the parliamentarians, which wanted to understand the issue of foreign relations of India and China. Uh, One is this, and the second is this, that uh, primarily as far as the parliamentary powers are considered, in a parliamentary setup, government enjoys the simple majority, and therefore uh, any kind of ratification that is being done in the parliament's power is only to ratify or pass it with simple majority, which the government has. So, other than the debates, other than say objections of the opposition MPs, they the opposition MPs does not have much power to stop you. Anyway, you can't stop it because that is how the system, that is what the power of the parliament have been defined in terms of this, right? And so we have to keep this in mind. And third thing that I wanted to mention was that uh, yeah, I got a call. Okay, I'll remember third thing and we'll come back. All right, just skipped my mind.
I think there are questions in the chat box as well. Shweta, would you
Yes.
read them out? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Saurabh Sharma. Okay, so there are two questions. Sharma has asked, what do you think the reason for weak opposition? Is there reasons like nepotism exist, or do reasons like nepotism exist, or the party should be limited to only some closed individuals? This is the first question. Yogesh Mishra has asked, hi Rupak sir, if someone is interested to work on the backgrounds of the parliamentarians, especially their socio-political family backgrounds, what can be the major source of data on them? Keeping in mind PRS and ADR majorly have digital data till 14th Lok Sabha.
Yes. So means, for weak opposition, yeah. See, opposition is it's not something which is dependent on factors like nepotism. If say Rahul Gandhi begins to win election, then you will say it is one of the strength. We have therefore we have to understand it as a process, and you can say, if you are interested, is it one of the factor? And for that, we can only speculate uh, in this. Therefore, nepotism and this, I did not focus much on any of these things. So as long as leadership is there, or a new kind of idioms agenda is being given, uh, um, it is what matters for a party. If you can ask about this internal democracy and this political families, that question is there, that does this political families hamper the internal democracy of the party, right? And does this lead to the weakening of a political party? So this is there, and any party is not close for anyone. I'll give you a simple example, that when this Janasangh was being formed, some of the people suggested that we should only open the membership to selected social groups. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee rejected it, saying that as a party it should be open for all. Second example I'll give you from AIMIM. So AIMIM, when it was being registered, so the rule is that they have to send their constitution to the Election Commission of India. The Election Commission of India have rejected their constitution, saying objection that there were few words in their constitution which symbolized towards one particular social group, a religious group, and therefore they were instructed to remove that word so that a party is open for all. They had to amend their constitution first. Okay, so this is in the Election Commission's archives. So this is there. For socio-political family, I think some people have studied it. Muhammad Osama have done work on, I think, Muslim political leaders in UP. Okay. So I think we can take the framework or the methodology from there and then extend it to further areas also. And this PRS does not deal with specific political. They rather deals with the legislatures. Okay, so we get much of the data about legislatures, their functioning, all these from the PRS. And ADR, we can get different kinds of electoral data such as affidavits and all. So it might be helpful to know about the antecedents of the leaders, but it will be largely, I think, field-based work if you want to work on the socio-political family backgrounds of the leader. Yeah.
Saurya Mishra has raised their hand.
Yeah, hi.
Sir,
Can
may I
I
ask something?
can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, hi, Rupak. I've been following your work for quite some time because I'm personally interested in the parliament and I've been working around in the parliament. So two questions, small questions from the conversation that you just the presentation you had. So did you also? I've not yet read the book. I'm yet to read it. So just forgive me if I've mistaken the question. I wanted to know that. Given the forms of protests across national legislatures, especially in the parliaments in South Asia or post colonial societies, have evolved over time, have you studied the role of the form of that protest in the making of the opposition? For example, the protest we saw in the New Zealand parliament, and then even now, the form of protest we've been seeing in the Indian parliament, like the last session when we had the 130th Constitution Amendment Bill, it was torn and thrown on the face of the Home Minister. So, have you also studied the form of protests within the space of the Parliament, physical space of the Parliament, changing, and has that contributed to the making of opposition in your study? And a follow up question to that being, how, as you have been mentioning about the government post independence and their role and ideation of parliament and how opposition's idea inside the parliament has been influenced by them. So now currently, as I have closely seen in the last 2 years, the interventions filed by, as now everything is digital, the interventions filed by the opposition MPs, specifically in 0R or 377s, that deal with very astute issues of the opposition, like say Gaza or something like deaths in tribal regions, etc., are systematically not balloted. I mean, we call process of balloting for questions as random, but we see for 0Rs and 377s, the voice of opposition is not just curbed by actually shouting and hooliganism, but also systematically that it never even comes up in the list. So have you like kind of explored the systematic overtaking of the whole idea of how the interventions work in the parliament? Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shaurya. The first question regarding these forms of protest, I have come across it, but I have not studied that how it forms, how it leads to the making of the opposition. But I think this Shireen Rai, then Carol Sperry, uh, they are working on the performative part of the parliament also. So I think they will be the better person to talk about it. I've read in general about disruptions and all. I've seen that the forms of protest in New Zealand Parliament. Okay, so this will be. I can't really say how it's unraveling. Second is about the post-independence. Yes, I agree with you that uh, 0R is, after all, an Indian invention. So we had enacted a 0R so that the MPs could raise some of the issues which is urgent and there was no time to give notice, etc. But over the years, 0R had become one of the it was supposed to be a constructive timeline in the first hour of the business that MPs can raise. But suddenly we see that as the disruptions grew in the parliament, MPs began to actually use that time for protesting, for disrupting the parliamentary function. And therefore, as a result, what happened when Hamid Ansari was the vice president, he shifted 0R to after the question hour, so that all these temper goes down and MPs can use in Rajya Sabha, MPs can use this time for a constructive discussion. And this is there, and therefore, since most of, and this I also study in the committees, that in the House, Speaker enjoys a lot of power, and that is beyond our challenge. Even MPs can't; they have lots of discretion, and this is not only affecting the usual business, 0 hour or question hour. Even in question hour, we know that uh, many of the questions goes unrepresented. So if there are 20 questions which is supposed to be asked orally and supplementary, hardly 6 to 7 questions are being discussed, and rest of the questions just become the archive. Right? So people like you and me goes later, and then we can read it, but we can't access those questions during the live session. So this is one thing, and this kind of discretionary power leads to various kinds of problems. For instance, in say making the chairperson of various committees, it is again a very what is decided is that based on your party's strength. So PR system based on your proportional representation, it is decided that Congress will get suppose out of 24 committees, 8 committees chairperson. But which committee will go to the Congress, or which Congress MP will become the chairperson, that one party can't decide. That is ultimately the discretion of the speaker. And there we see time and again it happens. It started with Shashi Tharoor, not now, around 2017, 2018, he was removed as a chairman of one committee, put into other. Then again, last year, again it became, because speaker enjoys the discretion, and this is a problem. Second, the members also of how the members are selected or nominated. This is there, and so. Again, Parliament like Westminster Parliament, like British, they have like UK Parliament, they had reformed into 2011 and reduced the role of Speaker in selecting all these chairpersons and even the members. So they made it a direct election within the House. So they have fixed certain rules that all right, Congress will get 8 chairmanship. It will be decided by election which 8 committees will go to Congress, or which rest of it will not be a person who will be deciding, and it will be a closed ballot system, anyone can vote. So you don't know whether one party is voting for your candidate or not. And second, it will bring autonomy to the chairman of the committees. Today, we don't see this. We see lots of, even now, when the committees was being discussed, it was supposed to be a very civilized place of discussion. Now, even within the committees, we are seeing lots of just the way it is happening at the bigger platform. So these things, the points that you raise, it is part of a bigger problem that is happening in the parliament. Yes.
Sir, may I ask something?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Sir, sorry, I have joined you a bit late and I don't know much about your book. But as I know the title, we are talking about the opposition voices in the parliament. So, as you have mentioned all about the time of Nehru and Indira Gandhi and so on, but you have not mentioned much about the times of UPA 1 and UPA 2. In the times of UPA 1 and UPA 2, I want to know your view about the opposition, the opposing voices that are there to protest, to protect, and to be vocal.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yes, um, it is means UPA 1, UPA 2. It is the fragmentation phase. So it is here that we talk about that the collisions basically various kinds of collisions are there. So even in the opposition, there are collisions, and this collisions and alliances are there. But the issue during this phase, the issue is that these are many of these are conveniences. So you might find one party opposing today, but next day you will see they are part of the alliances. So this is one thing that is happening. Second thing is that during this phase, when the opposition is fragmented, it is fragmented based on the representational principles, right? So there is no principled opposition to say to government uh, on large on say in general, all right? So BJP is there, but apart from BJP, other parties and nuclear deal, some of you talked about nuclear deal, we can see this kind of things. So this is also one of the aspect. And second, that this and therefore you see that this kind of, so now you have become a part of the government, or then again suddenly you are part of the opposition, then the kind of rhetorics or the political rhetoric or the performatives that you see uh, is will not help you, because you have been part of the ruling government. So on what policy agenda you are going to oppose it? This kind of thing is there. And
But
uh,
sir,
yes.
sorry for the interruption, but I want to tell you that in the times of UPA, if we see Mamta Banerjee was not a part of government still, and she was actually belonging to the same kind of ideology. Still, she was there to oppose
Yes, so
whenever the decision.
I think we should also restrict ourselves to one question, not get into a cross questioning. But my sense
Sorry,
is
sorry for that. Yes.
not at all. But my sense is that I think the speaker is trying to kind of make that point, and I would open the floor, leave it to Dr. Kumar to kind of address the cross question, but we wouldn't be taking any more cross questions. Thank you.
Sorry
I,
for that.
yeah, yeah. So this is not about see Mamta Banerjee or anyone. The idea is about well, yes, she was not in the first, specifically first, but she was there supporting, right, from outside, not for the entire period, for a little phase. But that is not the concern. Ideologically, you can be same, but again, you will see NCP or INC, this Trinamool Congress. You see the kind of the leadership and the regional masses that they are catering to. That was the part of a larger Congress problem. That was not a problem of UPA or UPA2. So she has to do politics in West Bengal, opposing the left. Left in the first part was part of the Congress. So that is what you have to deal with it. So this we have to understand. And again, means uh, and in general, that there have been, even today, you see there are effective opposition state-wise. Tamil Nadu has a very effective opposition in terms of, say, MPs. But to what extent these parties are able to make government accountable at the center? That is the question, right? So can they make government accountable? So this is where the problem is, right? And this has always been one of the problem, that discrete oppositions, unless you evolve as one, or unless you define some programmatic agenda uh, to demand or a certain scrutiny from the government at the center, is very difficult uh, uh, in the context. Second thing, which is again I just want to flag it, that the nature of the ruling party towards the opposition is largely, I think, means derived by the power that they enjoy. All right, and so if you come across various kinds of phases of opposition of the ruling party, be it the Congress or be it the various other parties and the BJP, apart from, so there is ideological difference, there is a party agenda difference, but at some point of time, you will feel that many of the actions or many of the behavior of these ruling parties are actually derived by the power that they enjoy. So in this case, be it any party, if they have power, they might react the same way that any other party is reacting. So the example is during the China war. If you read the parliamentary debate, many opposition leaders are uh, countering Nehru or criticizing Nehru, and then you see that uh, people are being told back then they are traitor, they are anti-national, etc. Then again during emergency and before that, there is a protest going on. People are being branded as CIA agents and all because back then we were anti-USA, we were pro-USSR, and therefore people are being saying, any leader, you are taking money from CIA, etc. So this, therefore, and again, I am flagging that we must try to understand the relationship between government and opposition from the power point of view also. And this is exactly happening, that we are focusing too much on what we can see, and then we ignore the power, and then we pick at some disjunctured moment, and we think that this is what is the truth. But if you see it in a continuity, you can find various kinds of similarities also in terms of power, and then dissimilarities also in terms of different parties. Yes.
Chetna?
I think that is all the questions that we have. Yes, I don't see any more questions in the chat box. I would like to now thank Dr. Rupak Kumar for the most enlightening session. We're very grateful to you for sharing your ideas and your work with us, a very extensive list of work with us. I also would like to thank Dr. Jigyasa Sogarwal for asking her in-depth questions and the participants for being engaging. Now I would like to bring the session to a close, and we look forward to hosting everybody next Saturday for our next TheDaak Baithak. The recording of this meeting will be available on our YouTube channel, and notification for that will come up on our social media. So stay tuned if you missed some portion of the meeting. And with that, a very good evening to everybody, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Chetna and Jigyasa,
Thank you.
and all the viewers.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rupak. No, it's very extensive. Usually we finish it in an hour, but I think with your questions and the patience that you had with all the answers, it went on longer. And yeah, it's going to be available, as just Chetna just said, on the TheDaak Baithak channel. So others who've not been able to join for various reasons and other commitments could have a look at it again. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.